The sun is setting as I pull into the parking lot of the Crown Ridge Hotel, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight that my knuckles ache. My heart is pounding, relentless drumbeat in my chest. I've never done something like this before, never thought I'd be the kind of man waiting to ambush his own wife. But here I am. It started 2 weeks ago when things didn't add up. Late nights, hushed phone calls, and a perfume that wasn't hers clinging to her clothes. Jessica, my wife of 10 years, had begun a series of lies that I tried to excuse until I couldn't anymore. I used to be a trusting man, the kind who believed in the vows we exchanged on our wedding day. Till death do us part. I trusted her, until I couldn't. It wasn't just suspicion. I followed the breadcrumbs. A friend at her work, someone I knew had an eye for Jessica, had left a voicemail on our home phone. It was late and the call was casual enough, but what stood out were his words, "Meet you at the usual place." I shouldn't have, but I checked her calendar. The words conference call and team dinner had appeared more than a dozen times in the past month, with little to show for her exhaustion when she came home. The pieces didn't fit. So, here I am, waiting, watching. My heart is bruised but still defiant. I'm clutching a manila envelope in my left hand, the divorce papers inside ready for the bombshell I'm about to drop. As the automatic doors slide open, a couple emerges. The man holds the woman close, his lips brushing her ear as she laughs, carefree. I almost envy them, almost wish I could rewind time and be them again. Back when Jessica's laugh wasn't just a memory of something I lost. But that's not today. Today is about the ugly truth. The glass doors slide shut behind me, and I catch the eye of a receptionist. She smiles politely, but I can tell I look out of place. I'm wearing a black hoodie, jeans, and a scowl that must scream trouble. I step past her before she can ask if I need help, and my feet feel like lead as I head toward the elevator. Room 814. I have no idea what to expect when I get there. I know what I fear. Jessica wrapped in another man's embrace, her laughter not for me, but for someone else. The thought makes my chest tighten with a mix of rage and despair. But there's also hope, irrational, stupid hope, that I've got it all wrong, that this is some misunderstanding. My phone buzzes in my pocket, pulling me back to reality. It's a text from Jessica. Won't be home tonight. Work emergency. The audacity of it almost makes me laugh. She's lying to me right this second, and she doesn't even know I'm in the building. That's when I realize my hands are trembling. I step into the elevator, the doors closing with a heavy sigh behind me. Each floor passes with a soft ding, and the tension coils tighter in my gut. I've rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, thought about what I'd say, how I'd confront her. But now, standing here in this silent, sterile elevator, I feel utterly unprepared. 8th floor, the automated voice chimes, and the doors slide open. This is it, my moment of truth. I step out, and the hallway feels too long, too bright. My heartbeat is deafening in my ears, a war drum that won't let me forget what I'm about to do. Room 814 looms ahead, the numbers glinting under fluorescent lights. This is where I find out if everything I believed in was a lie. I raise my fist to knock, my heart pounding so loud I'm sure she'll hear it. My fist hovers in the air, inches from the polished wood of the door. For a split second, I hesitate, my mind scrambling through the years of memories. Our first date, the day I proposed, the laughter and warmth that used to fill our home. I wonder how we got here, how love turned into suspicion and trust melted into betrayal. But I push those thoughts aside. This moment isn't about nostalgia, it's about the truth. My knuckles connect with the wood, the sound sharp and angry in the quiet hallway. I step back, bracing myself. The silence stretches on. Maybe she heard the knock and is scrambling to make herself presentable. Maybe she's whispering excuses to the man inside. The thought sets my teeth on edge, and I have to fight the urge to knock again, harder. Finally, the door opens, and there she stands. Jessica. Her hair is tousled, and she's wearing a silk robe I've never seen before. It's barely tied at the waist, and the look on her face is one I've never forgotten. Panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. Her eyes widen when she sees me, and for a moment, the world seems to stop. "Adam," she stammers, her voice high and shaky. What are you doing here? I don't respond. Instead, I let my gaze drift over her shoulder, and sure enough, there he is. The man I suspected but hoped I was wrong about. He's shirtless, his pants unbuckled, and he's scrambling to grab his clothes. My jaw tightens, and a wave of nausea rolls over me. The man looks familiar, and then it hits me. He's not just a colleague. He's Matt, our mutual friend, someone who's been in our home, eaten meals at our table. The betrayal feels even sharper, like a knife twisted in my gut. Jessica's hand flies to her chest, clutching the robe tighter. Adam, please, I can explain, she starts, but her voice is weak, unconvincing. I shake my head, my grip tightening on the envelope. Explain? My voice comes out rough, choked with disbelief. What could you possibly explain, Jessica? That this, I gesture between her and Matt, is just some kind of work emergency? Her eyes well up with tears, but I've seen her cry before, and this time, it doesn't move me. I'm too hurt, too angry, too done. I throw the envelope onto the bed, and it lands with a soft thud. Consider yourself served, I say, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside me. Matt finally manages to pull his shirt on and stumbles toward the door. Hey, man, this isn't what it looks like, he mumbles, his face pale and sweating. I laugh, but it's humorless, almost bitter. Not what it looks like? I repeat. So you're not half naked in a hotel room with my wife? My eyes lock onto his, and for a moment, I wonder if I'll hit him. My hands itch with the need to release all the anger coursing through me, but I hold back. I'm not about to make this mess worse by losing control. Matt raises his hands, backing away. I'm sorry, he whispers, and then he's gone, fleeing down the hallway like the coward he is. I don't even watch him leave. He's not the one who matters right now. Jessica's tears spill over, streaming down her cheeks. Adam, please, she sobs. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. We can fix this. Fix this. I echo, my voice breaking. You think this is something we can fix? My throat tightens, and I struggle to keep my composure. I gave you everything, Jessica. I trusted you, loved you. And this is how you repay me? She reaches for me, but I step back. Her touch, once comforting, now feels like poison. Please, she whispers, her voice cracking. I made a mistake, but I love you. I still love you. I shake my head, the hurt cutting deeper. Love? I spit the word like it's venom. You don't betray someone you love. You don't throw away a decade of marriage for a fling. Her sobs grow louder, but I'm already turning away, heading for the door. I need to get out of here, need to breathe, need to escape this nightmare. My feet feel heavy as I walk away, but there's a new resolve hardening in my chest. I won't be a victim to her lies any longer. As I step into the hallway, the door clicks shut behind me, and the weight of finality settles over my shoulders. I've lost something precious today, but maybe, just maybe, I've gained something too, freedom from the lies. I stagger out of the hotel and into the cool night air, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The weight of everything that just happened crashes over me, and for a moment, I feel like I can't breathe. My knees buckle, and I lean against a lamppost for support, clenching my jaw to hold back the storm of emotions tearing through me. She cheated. The woman I promised my life to, the one I built a future with, destroyed everything. The reality stings more than I imagined, and I'm left feeling hollow and betrayed. Anger boils under the surface, fighting with the grief that threatens to consume me. I pull out my phone, my fingers trembling. There's a text from my best friend, Nate. We've been friends since college, the kind of friends who'd have each other's backs no matter what. I never thought I'd be using his shoulder to lean on for this, but here I am. Hey man, I type, swallowing hard. Need a drink. Bad night. Where are you? Almost immediately, the phone buzzes. Dude, come to Murphy's. We're hanging out. What's going on? I don't reply. Instead, I shove the phone back in my pocket and head for my car, the hotel fading behind me. The drive to Murphy's bar is a blur, my mind running in circles around Jessica, her lies, and the image of her wrapped in another man's arms. I can't shake it, can't stop the anger from turning into something darker, something like shame. How did I not see it coming? When I pull into Murphy's parking lot, I sit in the driver's seat for a moment, hands on the wheel, trying to collect myself. I don't want to walk in there looking broken. But who am I kidding? I am broken. I take a deep breath and force myself out of the car, the neon sign above the bar casting a cold glow. Inside, the familiar smell of beer, peanuts, and cheap cologne greets me. It's busy, packed with people laughing, talking, and drowning their own problems in booze. Nate is easy to spot, standing at a high-top table with a couple of our friends. When he sees me, his face lights up, until he notices the look on mine. "Adam," he says, his smile fading. "Jesus, man, what happened?" I don't answer right away. I slide onto the stool beside him, feeling the burn of embarrassment as the guys lean in, sensing something big just dropped. Nate hands me a beer, and I down half of it in one go, hoping the alcohol will numb the ache. "It's Jessica," I finally say, my voice barely above a whisper. "She's been cheating on me." The words taste bitter, and saying them out loud makes it all the more real. The guys exchange shocked glances, and Nate's face hardens with anger. "No way," he says, his voice filled with disbelief. "Jessica? Are you serious?" "Caught her myself," I reply, rubbing my eyes with the heel of my hand. "Tonight, at the Crown Ridge Hotel. She was with Matt." The name comes out like a curse. "Matt?" Nate's voice rises in outrage, and I can see his grip tighten around his own beer. "Matt, that asshole who's been acting all buddy-buddy? Unbelievable." The other guys start throwing out curses and exclamations, and part of me is grateful for the support, but part of me just feels numb. The betrayal is still fresh, like a wound that refuses to close. Nate claps a hand on my shoulder, his expression fierce. "Man, I'm so sorry," he says. "You didn't deserve this. Jessica's a damn fool for throwing away what you two had." I nod, but his words don't make me feel any better. "I served her divorce papers," I mutter, "right there in the hotel room." The guys go silent for a moment, and then Nate lets out a low whistle. "Damn, Adam, you went all in." I shrug, finishing my beer. What else was I supposed to do? I snap, the bitterness bleeding into my voice. Pretend everything was fine? Let her keep lying to my face? Nate's eyes narrow, and he shakes his head. "No, you did the right thing. She needs to understand there are consequences." I stare at the empty glass in front of me, my reflection warped and twisted by the cold condensation. "I just don't know what to do now," I admit, my voice cracking. 10 years, man. 10 years of my life. And now I'm standing here feeling like a fool. Nate leans in, his voice low but steady. "You're not a fool, Adam. She made a choice, and it's on her. But you? You have a choice now, too. You can let this break you, or you can use it to make yourself stronger." The weight of his words sinks in, and I realize he's right. I can't change what Jessica did, can't undo the betrayal, but I can decide where I go from here. I lift my chin, meeting his gaze. "Yeah," I say, a flicker of determination breaking through the pain. "I'm not going to let this ruin me." Nate raises his beer, and the guys follow suit. "To Adam," he says, "to standing strong, even when life kicks you down." We clink glasses, and for the first time all night, I feel the tiniest sliver of hope. The next morning, sunlight pours through my bedroom window, piercing my skull like a jackhammer. The remnants of last night's drinks are still swirling in my head, but they're nothing compared to the storm of thoughts that kept me up until dawn. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Jessica's wide-eyed panic, her desperate pleas, and Matt's pathetic attempts to explain. It all replays in a vicious loop, leaving me raw and restless. I swing my legs over the side of the bed and bury my face in my hands. Today is day one. The day I start rebuilding, even if I don't know what that looks like yet. My phone buzzes on the nightstand, and I half expect it to be another string of messages from Jessica. She called me nonstop after I walked out of that hotel room, her voice frantic on every voicemail. I stopped listening after the third one. I don't need her apologies. I need distance. But it's not Jessica. It's Nate. "You alive?" his text reads. Typical Nate. straight to the point. I smirk despite myself and reply, barely. What's up? A second later, my phone buzzes again. Got breakfast with your name on it. Murphy's Diner, 20 minutes. I stare at the screen for a moment, considering. Part of me wants to stay in bed and drown in my misery, but the thought of sitting across from Nate, someone who's been in my corner through everything, feels like exactly what I need. I text back, be there. When I walk into Murphy's, the smell of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee greets me like an old friend. Nate is already at a booth, sipping coffee and scrolling on his phone. He looks up as I approach and grins. Glad you made it, he says, sliding a cup of coffee across the table toward me. You look like hell, though. Feel like it, I admit, taking a grateful sip. The warmth spreads through me, easing some of the tension in my chest. Nate sets his phone down and leans forward, his expression serious. How are you holding up? And don't give me the tough guy act. I want the truth. I sigh, running a hand through my hair. I don't know, man. One minute I feel like I'm ready to move on, and the next I'm angry, hurt, everything all at once. It's like she ripped the ground out from under me, and now I'm just trying to figure out how to stand again. He nods, his gaze steady. Makes sense. You've been through a lot in a short amount of time. But listen, you're stronger than you think. You don't have to figure everything out right now. Just focus on one step at a time. Yeah, I say, though the words feel hollow. One step at a time. Our food arrives, and for a few minutes, we eat in silence. The diner buzzes around us. Servers refilling coffee, customers chatting about their plans for the day. It's comforting, in a way, to be surrounded by normalcy, even if my world feels anything but normal right now. As I finish my pancakes, Nate clears his throat. So, what's the plan? You've got the divorce papers served, but what's next? That's the question, isn't it? I haven't thought much beyond that moment at the hotel. Now that it's over, I feel unmoored, like I'm drifting without a compass. I don't know, I admit. Guess I'll have to find a lawyer, figure out what happens from here. Nate smirks. Well, you're in luck. My cousin's a divorce attorney, and she's damn good. Want me to give her a call? I hesitate. The idea of dragging this mess into a courtroom feels overwhelming, but I know it's necessary. Yeah, I say finally. That'd be great. Done. Nate pulls out his phone and starts typing. I'll set up a meeting for you. In the meantime, you should probably focus on taking care of yourself. This isn't just about Jessica. It's about getting your life back, piece by piece. His words hit harder than he probably realizes. He's right, this isn't just about her. It's about me, about reclaiming the person I was before her betrayal tore me apart. For the first time, I feel a spark of determination flicker inside me. By the time we leave the diner, I feel lighter. Like the weight on my shoulders isn't quite as crushing as it was when I woke up. Nate claps me on the back as we walk to our cars. You've got this, he says. And you've got me, anytime you need it. I nod, gratitude swelling in my chest. Thanks, man. I mean it. As I drive home, I roll down the windows, letting the cool breeze wash over me. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time, I feel like I'm ready to face it. Back at home, the silence feels different now. Less like a prison and more like a canvas waiting to be painted. The house is still ours technically, but Jessica hasn't shown her face since last night, and I know it's only a matter of time before things get messy. There are reminders of her everywhere. Her favorite mug in the kitchen, the throw blanket she always curls up with on the couch. Part of me wants to gather everything that belongs to her and toss it out on the lawn, but I resist. Not yet. I head to the living room and slump onto the couch, my mind racing. The anger is still there, simmering beneath the surface, but now it's accompanied by something else, a sense of clarity. Jessica's betrayal might have blindsided me, but it doesn't define me. She doesn't define me. My phone buzzes on the coffee table, breaking the quiet. I grab it, expecting another message from Nate or a spam call, but the name on the screen makes my stomach twist. Jessica. For a moment, I debate ignoring it. What could she possibly say that I'd want to hear? But curiosity gets the better of me. I swipe to answer and press the phone to my ear. What? I say, my tone clipped. There's a pause on the other end, followed by a shaky breath. Adam, please don't hang up, Jessica says. Her voice is soft, pleading, but it only fuels my frustration. What do you want, Jessica? I snap. Haven't you said enough? I know I messed up, she says, her words tumbling out in a rush. I know I hurt you, and I can't even begin to tell you how sorry I am. But Adam, please, just hear me out. I clench my jaw, my grip on the phone tightening. You had your chance to explain last night. Remember how that turned out? I'm done listening to excuses. Her voice cracks. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Matt and I, we were stupid. I was stupid. I let things get out of hand, and now I've ruined everything. I laugh bitterly, shaking my head even though she can't see me. Ruined everything? That's the understatement of the year. Adam, I'm serious, she says, desperation seeping into her tone. I want to fix this. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you to give me a chance. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer, and for a moment, I'm speechless. Is she really asking for another chance? After everything she's done? I feel a flicker of something. Pity, maybe, but it's quickly drowned out by the anger that's been my constant companion since last night. No, I say firmly. You don't get a second chance, Jessica. Not after this. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. Her silence on the other end is deafening, and I almost feel guilty for a split second. But then I remember the hotel room, the lies, and the betrayal, and the guilt evaporates. Adam, please, she whispers. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. I'll prove to you that I can be better. I let out a long breath, my chest tight. This isn't about you proving anything, Jessica. It's about trust, and you shattered it. There's nothing left to fix. She starts to cry, the sound hollow and pitiful. I should feel something, sadness, anger, regret, but all I feel is relief. Relief that I'm finally standing up for myself, that I'm refusing to let her manipulate me any longer. I'm moving forward, I say, my voice steady. You should too. I hang up before she can respond, the weight of the conversation lifting as I set the phone down. For the first time, I feel like I have control, not over her, not over the past, but over my future. And that's enough. The next few days pass in a haze of paperwork, calls to lawyers, and sorting through the remnants of a life that no longer exists. Each step is both exhausting and cathartic. Canceling joint credit cards, dividing up finances, and figuring out what to do with the house. Every task reminds me of Jessica, but each one also feels like a step toward reclaiming my independence. Nate's cousin, Alyssa, turns out to be a godsend. She's sharp, no nonsense, and takes every detail I give her about the situation with a calm determination that makes me feel like I'm finally on the offensive. She signed the divorce papers? She asks during our first meeting, her eyes scanning the documents I handed over. She hasn't yet, I admit. I left them at the hotel. I guess I should follow up. Alyssa leans back in her chair, tapping a pen against her notepad. We'll need her signature sooner rather than later. If she stalls, we can escalate, but it's cleaner if she cooperates. I nod, feeling the weight of the process settle over me. I'll reach out and make it clear she doesn't have a choice. Good. Alyssa sets the pen down and folds her hands on the desk. One more thing. I recommend you stay out of the house for now. It's still technically a shared asset, and if she decides to come back, things could get messy. Messier than they already are? I ask with a bitter smile. Alyssa doesn't laugh. I'm serious, Adam. Find a place to stay until this is sorted. It's for your own peace of mind. Her words stick with me as I leave her office. I hadn't thought much about the possibility of Jessica coming back, but the idea makes my skin crawl. The house, once a sanctuary, now feels tainted. Maybe she's right. It's time to leave it behind, even if just temporarily. That evening, I call Nate. I need a favor, I say as soon as he picks up. Name it, he replies without hesitation. Do you have space at your place? Just for a couple of weeks while I figure things out? Of course, he says immediately. You don't even have to ask. Come by whenever. We'll get you set up. His generosity catches me off guard, and I pause for a moment, swallowing the lump in my throat. Thanks, man. I owe you. Don't mention it, he says. Just get over here and leave all that crap behind. The next morning, I pack a bag with the essentials, clothes, toiletries, and a few personal items. It feels surreal, walking through the house and picking out what to bring, like I'm leaving for a trip instead of escaping the wreckage of my marriage. I pass by the wedding photo on the mantel, the smiles frozen in time, and a wave of bitterness washes over me. Without a second thought, I shove the photo into a drawer and close it. By the time I arrive at Nate's place, I feel like I've shed a layer of my old life. He greets me at the door with a grin and a beer in hand, ushering me inside like it's the most natural thing in the world. Welcome to Casa Nate, he says, clapping me on the back. Your room's ready, and there's a fully stocked fridge. You're officially part of the family now. I chuckle despite myself, the tension in my chest easing. Thanks, man. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out, he says, leading me to the spare bedroom. But lucky for you, you don't have to. Now, get settled and meet me in the living room. We're watching the game tonight, and I'm not letting you sulk through it. The room is small but cozy, with a neatly made bed and a window that lets in the late afternoon light. It's not home, but it feels safe. For now, that's enough. That night, as we sit on the couch with beers in hand, shouting at the TV like old times, I feel a flicker of something I haven't felt in days, normalcy. It's fragile, like a thin sheet of ice over a frozen lake, but it's there. For the first time since this nightmare began, I feel like I might actually be okay. The following week, I fall into a rhythm at Nate's place. It's not much, but it's enough to keep me grounded. I wake up early, hit the gym to burn off the lingering frustration, and spend the rest of the day tackling the logistics of the divorce. It's a whirlwind of paperwork, legal jargon, and occasional emotional gut punches, but every step feels like progress. Jessica, surprisingly, has been quiet. I expected more pleading texts or desperate calls, but after our last conversation, she seems to have backed off. Part of me wonders if she's realized there's no fixing this, or if she's waiting to strike when I least expect it. Either way, I'm grateful for the silence. One evening, I'm sitting on Nate's couch, flipping through emails on my laptop, when his voice cuts through the quiet. Hey man, he says, walking in with 2 beers. Got something to tell you. I glance up, raising an eyebrow. What's up? He hands me a beer and sits down, his expression serious. Ran into Matt today. The guy actually had the nerve to talk to me. The name alone makes my stomach churn, but I force myself to stay calm. What did he want? He wanted to apologize, Nate says, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Said he feels terrible about what happened and hopes you'll understand it wasn't planned. I let out a bitter laugh. Wasn't planned? That's rich. What did you say? Nate smirks, leaning back in his chair. I told him to stay the hell away from you, or he'd have more than guilt to deal with. A small grin tugs at the corners of my mouth. Appreciate it. Anytime, Nate says, raising his beer. But seriously, you don't need that guy anywhere near your life. Cut him off completely. I already have, I say, my grip tightening on the bottle. He's dead to me. The room falls silent, save for the faint hum of the TV. I stare at the beer in my hand, my thoughts swirling. The betrayal from both Jessica and Matt still stings. But the more time that passes, the more I realize I'm better off without either of them. They're the ones who ruined everything, not me. So, what's the next move? Nate asks, breaking the silence. I take a deep breath, setting the beer down. I think it's time to start fresh. Get my own place, focus on work, and rebuild. Good plan, Nate says, nodding. But don't rush it. You've been through a lot. Take your time. I will, I reply, though deep down, I'm itching to move forward. The sooner I can put Jessica and everything that happened behind me, the better. The next day, I start apartment hunting. It feels strange, scrolling through listings and imagining a life without Jessica, but it's also freeing. Each new possibility feels like a step toward reclaiming my independence. By the end of the week, I found a small but cozy place downtown, perfect for a fresh start. As I stand in the empty apartment, the keys cold in my hand, I take a deep breath. This is it, the first real step in rebuilding my life. The walls are bare, and the air smells faintly of paint, but it feels like mine. A blank slate. I spend the weekend moving in, with Nate's help, of course. The place slowly starts to feel like home, with a mix of new furniture and a few old pieces I couldn't bear to part with. By Sunday night, I'm sitting on my new couch, a pizza box on the coffee table and a beer in my hand, staring out the window at the city lights. For the first time in weeks, I feel a flicker of peace. The pain and anger are still there, lingering in the background, but they don't define me anymore. This is my life now, and I'm ready to make it mine again. The next chapter of my life begins with cautious optimism. The apartment is small but comfortable, the kind of place that feels more like a refuge than just a place to live. It's mine, and for the first time in weeks, I feel like I'm in control again. The morning sunlight filters through the blinds as I sip coffee on my couch, looking out at the city skyline. There's still a long road ahead, but I'm starting to see glimpses of what life might look like on the other side of all this. I throw myself into work, taking on extra projects to fill the void and keep my mind occupied. My boss notices the change, and for once, it's in a good way. "You've been on fire lately," she tells me during a meeting. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." It feels good to hear that, even if I know the drive is fueled more by anger and a need for distraction than anything else. Still, progress is progress, and I'll take it. Jessica finally breaks her silence a week later. It's a text, just a few words, but they hit like a sucker punch. "Can we meet? Please." I stare at the message for a long time, my emotions warring inside me. Part of me wants to ignore it, to block her number and move on without looking back. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the good times, the love we once shared, feels compelled to hear her out. Against my better judgment, I text back, "When and where?" She responds almost immediately. "Tomorrow. The cafe near our old place. 6 p.m.? I agree, though the thought of seeing her again makes my stomach twist. I tell myself it's just a conversation, a chance to get closure, but deep down, I know it's more complicated than that. The next day, I walk into the cafe feeling a mix of nerves and dread. Jessica is already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of tea in front of her. She looks different, tired, maybe even broken, but I don't let that soften me. I can't afford to. "Adam," she says as I approach, her voice hesitant, "Thank you for coming." I sit down across from her, my expression unreadable. "What do you want, Jessica?" She flinches at the coldness in my tone, but recovers quickly. I needed to see you. To explain. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I can't let things end like this." I lean back in my chair, crossing my arms. "You mean after you tore apart everything we built? After you lied to my face and slept with one of our so-called friends? You think there's anything left to say?" Her eyes fill with tears, but I don't let it sway me. "I made a mistake," she whispers. "A horrible, unforgivable mistake. But I wasn't trying to hurt you, Adam. I don't know. I was lost." "Lost?" I repeat, my voice rising. "That's your excuse? You were lost. So you decided to destroy our marriage? Do you even hear yourself?" She looks down at her hands, her tears falling onto the table. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. I don't expect you to take me back, but I needed to tell you that I'm sorry. Truly." For a moment, I feel the anger start to give way to something else. Pity, maybe, or even a flicker of compassion. But then I remember the hotel, the lies, and the pain she caused, and I steel myself. "Jessica," I say, my voice firm, "I appreciate the apology, but it doesn't change anything. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. I'm moving on. You should too." Her shoulders slump, and for the first time, she looks defeated. "I understand," she says softly. I hope someday you can forgive me." I don't answer. Instead, I stand, tossing a few dollars on the table for her tea. "Goodbye, Jessica." As I walk out of the cafe, a strange sense of relief washes over me. The conversation didn't fix anything, but it gave me something I didn't realize I needed: closure. Jessica's chapter in my life is over, and for the first time, I feel like I'm truly ready to start writing the next one. Walking out of the cafe felt like shedding a heavy weight I'd carried for far too long. The evening air was cool, crisp against my skin, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I breathed freely. The sky above was painted in hues of orange and purple, the city lights beginning to flicker on. It was as if the world had finally aligned with the clarity I'd gained inside. Jessica's apology replayed in my mind as I walked toward my car. Her words had sounded sincere, but sincerity didn't undo betrayal. It didn't erase the image of her with Matt or the pain of knowing how easily she'd shattered the trust we'd built over a decade. No amount of tears or regret could fix that. By the time I reached my car, I felt lighter. Not happy, but lighter. Closure was a strange thing. It didn't erase the past, but it gave me the strength to let go of its grip on my present. Back at my apartment, the quiet felt different than before. It wasn't loneliness anymore. It was solitude. There was a peace in being alone that I hadn't known I needed. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, plopped onto the couch, and flipped through the channels until I landed on a documentary about rebuilding ancient structures. I wasn't really paying attention, but the imagery of broken pieces coming together to form something new felt oddly symbolic. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, and I glanced at the screen. It was Nate, as usual, checking in. "How'd it go?" his message read. I typed back, "Fine. Closure. Moving on." His reply came almost instantly, "About time. Proud of you, man." I smiled faintly, setting the phone down and taking a long sip of my beer. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Jessica or Matt or the life that had crumbled around me. I was thinking about the future, what I wanted to build from here. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of purpose. It's strange, but liberating. There's no emotional fog hanging over me, no endless loop of questions or doubts. Instead, I feel focused, ready to take the next steps. First on the list is work. I throw myself into a new project, a high-profile case that requires long hours and meticulous attention to detail. It's exactly what I need. Something to pour my energy into. Something that reminds me of what I'm capable of. Over the next few weeks, I start piecing my life back together, one small step at a time. I reconnect with old friends, people I hadn't seen in years because I'd been so wrapped up in my life with Jessica. It's surprising how easy it is to fall back into those friendships, how willing they are to welcome me back without judgment. I also start taking better care of myself. The gym becomes a sanctuary, a place where I can channel my frustration and emerge feeling stronger, both physically and mentally. Each session leaves me more confident, more in control. And then there's the apartment. Little by little, I turn it into a reflection of who I am now. The furniture is modern and minimal, the walls decorated with photos of places I want to visit. It's a stark contrast to the home I shared with Jessica, which had been filled with her touches, throw pillows, framed quotes, and knickknacks I never cared for. This space is mine, and it feels good. One evening, as I'm rearranging books on the shelf, Nate drops by unannounced, a six-pack in one hand and a mischievous grin on his face. "Figured you could use a break," he says, plopping down on the couch and cracking open a beer. I laugh, joining him. "You're not wrong." As we sit there, talking and laughing like we used to, I realize how much I've missed this. Simple moments with people who truly have my back. For so long, I'd been so consumed by my marriage, by Jessica, that I'd let these connections fade. Now, I'm determined not to let that happen again. By the time Nate leaves, the apartment feels warmer somehow, more alive. I sit back on the couch, staring out the window at the city lights, and for the first time, I feel like I'm not just surviving, I'm living. It's a quiet Saturday morning when I decide to tackle something I've been avoiding since moving into the apartment, unpacking the last box. It's small, shoved into the corner of my bedroom closet, and filled with things I couldn't bring myself to sort through before. Pieces of the past. Pieces of Jessica. As I pull the box out and set it on the bed, my chest tightens. I tell myself this is just another step, another way to let go. I peel back the flaps and see the contents. Framed photos, letters, little mementos from trips we took together. Each one feels like a sucker punch, but I keep going. The first item I pull out is a picture of us from our honeymoon in Maui. We're standing on a beach, her head resting on my shoulder, both of us smiling like we didn't have a care in the world. I remember that moment vividly, the sound of the waves, the warmth of the sun, the feeling that nothing could ever come between us. It feels like a lifetime ago. I set the photo aside and pick up a stack of letters, tied together with a ribbon. They're from her, written during the first few years of our marriage. I read the first one, her words filled with love and promises of forever. My hands tremble as I set it down, unable to read more. Forever didn't last. One by one, I go through the rest of the box, letting myself feel the pain and nostalgia, but refusing to let it consume me. When I'm done, I pack everything into a trash bag, except for one item, a small, carved wooden figure of a lighthouse that we bought on our first trip together. It doesn't remind me of her, not really. It reminds me of the person I was before everything fell apart, the person I'm working to become again. I set the lighthouse on the windowsill, where it catches the morning light. It feels like a symbol of hope, a beacon guiding me through the storm. The next week, I throw myself into a new challenge, something completely out of my comfort zone. A coworker invites me to join a hiking group, and while I've never been much of an outdoorsman, I say yes. It feels good to say yes to something new, something that has nothing to do with Jessica or the life I left behind. The first hike is brutal. The trail winds up a steep mountain, the air growing thinner with each step. My legs ache and sweat drips down my face, but I push through. There's something cathartic about the physical challenge, about putting one foot in front of the other and knowing the only way to reach the top is to keep moving. When we finally reach the summit, the view takes my breath away. The city sprawls out below, tiny and insignificant compared to the vastness of the landscape. The sky stretches endlessly above, and for the first time in weeks, I feel small in a good way. My problems, my pain, they're just one part of a much bigger picture. As the group takes photos and chats, I sit on a rock and let the moment sink in. This is what I've been missing. Moments of clarity, of connection, of realizing that life goes on, no matter what. On the way back down, I strike up a conversation with one of the group members, a woman named Claire. She's easy to talk to, with a quick wit and a laugh that's contagious. We swap stories about work, hobbies, and favorite movies, and by the time we reach the parking lot, I feel lighter than I have in weeks. Thanks for inviting me, I tell my coworker as we load into our cars. I needed this. Anytime, she says with a smile. You should come to the next one. We're doing a coastal trail next weekend. I'll be there, I say, meaning it. As I drive home, the sunset painting the sky in vibrant colors, I realize something important. Life isn't about erasing the past. It's about moving forward, about finding new reasons to smile, new adventures to chase. And for the first time, I'm excited about what's ahead. The following weekend, I find myself on the coastal trail with the hiking group again. The salty breeze rolls in from the ocean, the rhythmic crashing of waves below blending with the chatter of the group. There's an energy in the air, one I haven't felt in a long time, a sense of adventure, of belonging. Claire is here again, her bright smile and easy laugh standing out among the group. As we hike, we naturally fall into step together, talking about everything from work to the ridiculous ways we both manage to trip over nothing. So, what made you join this group? She asks as we navigate a narrow section of the trail. I hesitate for a moment before answering. Honestly, I needed a change. Life's been complicated lately. She nods, her expression understanding. I get that. Sometimes you just need to shake things up, right? Exactly, I say, glancing at her. What about you? She grins. I've always loved hiking. It's my therapy, you know? Whenever life gets messy, the trails remind me that there's still beauty out there. Her words resonate with me, and for the rest of the hike, our conversation flows effortlessly. By the time we reach the end of the trail, I feel a sense of connection I didn't expect. It's nothing serious, just two people enjoying each other's company, but it's a reminder that life goes on. And maybe, just maybe, it can be good again. Back at my apartment, I dive into one of the projects that's been on my mind since moving in, building a custom bookshelf. It's something I've always wanted to do, but never found the time for. Now, with my weekends free and my mind clearer, it feels like the perfect challenge. I spend the next few days sketching out designs, gathering materials, and carefully measuring each piece of wood. The process is methodical, almost meditative, and I lose myself in the rhythm of cutting, sanding, and assembling. By the time the bookshelf is finished, my hands are sore, but my heart feels full. I step back and admire the finished piece, running my fingers over the smooth surface. It's not perfect. There are a few uneven edges, a small nick where the saw slipped, but it's mine. A tangible reminder that I'm capable of creating something good, even after everything that's happened. I load the shelves with books, placing a few small plants and knickknacks to fill the empty spaces. When I'm done, the apartment feels warmer, more like a home. I snap a picture and send it to Nate with the caption, "Handmade progress." His reply is almost immediate. "Looks awesome. When's the housewarming party?" I laugh, shaking my head. "Soon," I type back. "Promise." One evening, as I'm sitting on the couch with a book, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Claire. "Hey, a few of us are grabbing drinks tomorrow night. You in?" I hesitate, my finger hovering over the screen. It's been a while since I've gone out for something as simple as drinks with friends, and the thought feels both exciting and daunting. Finally, I type back, "Count me in." The next night, I walk into a lively bar downtown, the hum of conversation and clinking glasses filling the air. Claire waves me over to a table where a few familiar faces from the hiking group are already gathered. The atmosphere is easy and welcoming, and before long, I'm laughing along with the group, a cold beer in hand. Claire and I end up in our own little conversation again, trading stories and jokes. There's a spark between us, subtle but undeniable, and it catches me off guard. I didn't come here looking for anything beyond friendship, but something about her feels refreshing, like a breath of fresh air after being trapped underwater. As the night winds down, she leans in and says, "You know, I'm glad you joined the group. It wouldn't be the same without you." Her words catch me off guard, but I smile. "Thanks. I'm glad I joined, too." Walking home that night, the city lights twinkling around me, I feel a strange mix of emotions, hope, excitement, and a tinge of fear. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time, I'm open to the possibilities. Over the next few weeks, life starts to feel normal again. It's not the same kind of normal I knew before everything fell apart, but it's something better, simpler, freer. I spend my days focused on work, my evenings exploring the city or tinkering with new projects in the apartment, and my weekends hiking with the group. Claire and I continue to gravitate toward each other, whether it's during a hike or grabbing coffee afterward. She's easy to talk to, her presence a calm antidote to the chaos I've been sifting through. It's not romantic, at least not yet, but it's something I hadn't realized I was missing, genuine connection. One Saturday, after a particularly grueling trail, the group decides to grab lunch at a nearby cafe. We pile into a few cars and take over a long table, the energy light and filled with laughter. Claire sits across from me, her hair still damp with sweat, but her smile radiant. As the group chats, I find myself watching her, noticing the way her eyes light up when she laughs, the way she leans in when she's genuinely interested in what someone is saying. "Adam," she says suddenly, pulling me out of my thoughts. "What about you? Any wild travel stories?" I blink, caught off guard. Not really," I say, setting my fork down. "I mean, I've traveled a bit, but nothing too crazy. Most of my adventures have been local." "Well, that has to change," she says with a teasing grin. "Life's too short to stay in one place. You need a trip, something big." The rest of the group chimes in, tossing out suggestions for destinations, national parks, tropical beaches, European cities. The idea sticks in my mind, though. A trip. A chance to break free from everything familiar and start fresh somewhere new, even if only for a little while. Later that evening, as I'm relaxing at home, I start looking up travel destinations. It's been years since I've thought about taking a real trip, and the possibilities feel endless. I make a list of places I've always wanted to see: the Grand Canyon, Glacier National Park, Iceland's waterfalls and volcanoes. For the first time in a long time, I feel genuinely excited about the future, not just surviving it, but living it. As I scroll through photos of breathtaking landscapes, My phone buzzes. It's a message from Claire. Hey, just wanted to say I had a great time today. You've got a good vibe. Glad you're part of the group. I smile, my fingers hesitating over the keyboard before I type back. Same here. You've made the group even better. Her response is quick, a simple smiley face, but it lingers in my mind longer than it should. A week later, I find myself in a situation I didn't expect, sitting across from Claire at a small Italian restaurant. It wasn't planned, not really. We'd been talking about food after a hike, and she'd casually mentioned this place as one of her favorites. Before I knew it, I'd said, "Let's go." And now here we were. The atmosphere is cozy, the air filled with the aroma of garlic and fresh herbs. Claire is animated as always, her laugh cutting through the low hum of conversations around us. I'm more reserved, but she doesn't seem to mind. In fact, she has a way of pulling me out of my shell without even trying. "So," she says, twirling a forkful of pasta, "what's the next step for you? In life, I mean?" I pause, considering her question. Honestly, I don't know, I admit. I've been so focused on moving on from everything, I haven't thought much about what comes next. She nods thoughtfully. That's fair. Sometimes it's good to just take things one step at a time. What about you? I ask, shifting the spotlight. What's next for Claire? She smiles, a soft, almost wistful expression. More adventures, I guess. I've got this list of things I want to do. Hikes, trips, trying new things. Life's too short to sit still. Her words hit home, and I find myself nodding. Agreed. The conversation shifts to lighter topics after that, and by the time we leave the restaurant, I'm more relaxed than I've been in months. We walk to our cars, the cool night air wrapping around us. Thanks for tonight, she says, her smile warm. This was fun. It was, I agree. We should do it again sometime. Her eyes meet mine, and for a moment, there's something unspoken between us. Then she nods. Yeah, we should. As I drive home, my mind is buzzing. Claire wasn't part of the plan, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the best things in life aren't planned. The next few weeks feel like a turning point. Life is no longer a haze of recovery. It's a blend of discovery, small victories, and cautious hope. Claire and I start spending more time together, not deliberately, but naturally. A coffee here, a casual hike there. Each interaction feels effortless, like we've known each other for years. But it's not just Claire. I'm rediscovering myself in ways I hadn't thought possible. I sign up for a photography class, something I'd always been curious about but never made time for. The first time I pick up the camera, I feel a rush of excitement. Capturing the world through a lens feels therapeutic, like I'm seeing everything in a new light. Literally. One Saturday, after the group finishes a morning hike, Claire lingers as everyone else heads to their cars. The sky is overcast, the smell of rain heavy in the air, but neither of us seems in a hurry to leave. "Adam," she says, her voice softer than usual. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I reply, leaning against a nearby tree. She hesitates, kicking at a loose rock on the trail. "What's your biggest fear right now? I mean, in your life?" The question catches me off guard. I've spent so much time trying to move forward that I haven't stopped to reflect on what still holds me back. I glance down at the ground, the words forming slowly. Probably getting stuck, I admit. Letting the past define me. I don't want to be the guy who's just the sum of what went wrong. She nods, her gaze steady. "I get that, but from what I've seen, you're already moving forward. You're stronger than you think." Her words hit me harder than I expect. "Thanks," I say, meeting her eyes. "That means a lot." She smiles, a small, genuine smile that lingers as we walk back to the parking lot together. The connection between us feels stronger now, though neither of us says anything more about it. Some things don't need words. That night, as I sit in my apartment editing photos from the hike, I can't stop thinking about Claire's question. My biggest fear. It's a loaded one, but it also forces me to confront something I've been avoiding. Trust? I trusted Jessica completely, and that trust was obliterated. The idea of letting someone in again, of risking that pain, feels terrifying. But Claire is different. She's honest, grounded, and patient. She's not pushing for anything, just offering a steady presence in my life. I glance at my phone, debating whether to send her a message. After a moment, I type, "Thanks for today. I needed that." Her response comes quickly, "Anytime. You're easy to talk to." I smile, feeling a warmth I haven't felt in a long time. Maybe trust doesn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe it can grow, piece by piece, like everything else I'm rebuilding. A few days later, Claire invites me to join her for an evening at an art exhibit downtown. It's not something I'd typically go to, but the idea intrigues me. Plus, I can't deny that I want to spend more time with her. The gallery is buzzing when we arrive, the walls adorned with abstract paintings and sculptures that make me feel both fascinated and confused. Claire walks beside me, her eyes lighting up as she explains the meaning behind the pieces, her enthusiasm infectious. At one point, we stop in front of a painting, a sprawling landscape of a forest shrouded in fog. It's hauntingly beautiful, and I can't look away. "It's about finding clarity," Claire says softly, reading my thoughts, "even when things feel murky." I glance at her, and for a moment, the noise of the gallery fades away. "I think I needed to see this," I say, my voice quiet. She smiles, her gaze lingering on mine. "Me too." As we leave the gallery that night, walking side by side through the cool night air, I realize something important. I don't know where this thing with Claire is going, but for the first time, I'm not afraid to find out. The days start blending into weeks, and for the first time in what feels like forever, life feels steady. Not perfect. There's still the occasional pang of anger or sadness when I think about Jessica, but steady. My routines are solid. My photography is blossoming into a passion, and Claire has become a constant, and I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. One evening, I'm in my apartment editing photos from our last hike when my phone buzzes. It's a text from Claire, "Clear skies tonight. Want to do some stargazing?" I stare at the message for a moment, the idea tugging at something in me. Stargazing. Simple, spontaneous, unburdened by expectations. It's the kind of thing I haven't done in years. Sounds perfect, I type back. An hour later, we're parked at the edge of a secluded field just outside the city. The air is crisp, the stars scattered across the sky like glitter on velvet. Claire spreads out a blanket, and we sit side by side, leaning back to take in the view. "It's beautiful," I say, my voice low. "It always is," she replies, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Makes you realize how small your problems really are." I nod, the weight of her words settling over me. We sit in silence for a while, the quiet filled only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the grass. It's peaceful, and for the first time, I feel like I can let my guard down. "You know," Claire says softly, breaking the silence, "I've been meaning to ask, what made you join the hiking group? I mean, really?" I glance at her, her face illuminated by the faint glow of the stars. "I needed to get out of my own head," I admit, "to stop feeling stuck. And honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've made." Her smile is warm, and she turns her gaze back to the sky. "I'm glad you did. You've brought something to the group, you know? You make it better." Her words catch me off guard, and for a moment, I don't know what to say. I can feel the connection between us growing stronger, like an invisible thread pulling us closer. It's both exhilarating and terrifying. "Thanks," I finally say. "That means a lot." We stay there for hours, talking about everything and nothing, the stars above us a silent witness. By the time we pack up and head back to our cars, I feel a sense of peace I haven't felt in years. Claire hugs me before we part ways, her arms warm and steady around me. It's brief, but it lingers, her presence staying with me long after she's gone. The next morning, I wake up feeling lighter. The conversation with Claire, the quiet moments under the stars, it all feels like a turning point. I get up, make coffee, and sit by the window, watching the city come to life. The lighthouse figurine on the windowsill catches the sunlight, its small beacon a reminder of how far I've come. Later that day, I meet with Alyssa, my lawyer, to finalize the divorce proceedings. It's the last major hurdle, and as much as I dread it, I know it's necessary. "It's all pretty straightforward," Alyssa says, flipping through the paperwork. Jessica's agreed to the terms, so we're just waiting on the court to make it official. Hearing Jessica's name stirs something in me, but it's not the pain or anger I expected. It's just acceptance. What happened with her and Matt is part of my story, but it doesn't define me anymore. Thanks for everything, Alyssa, I say as we wrap up. I don't think I could have done this without you. That's what I'm here for, she says with a small smile. You're doing great, Adam. Just keep moving forward. As I leave her office, a sense of finality washes over me. The chapter with Jessica is closing, and for the first time, I feel ready to step fully into what comes next. That evening, I get a text from Claire. Dinner tomorrow? My treat. I hesitate, my finger hovering over the screen. It's not just dinner. It's a step, a risk, a chance at something new. But then I think about the stars, about the way she makes me feel grounded yet weightless, and I know the answer. Looking forward to it, I type back. As I set my phone down, a small smile tugs at the corners of my mouth. For the first time, the future doesn't feel so uncertain. It feels wide open, filled with possibilities. The next evening, I find myself standing outside Claire's apartment, a bottle of wine in hand and nerves simmering in my chest. It's not like this is a first date, or at least, it hasn't been framed that way. But it feels significant, like a step towards something I hadn't expected but maybe wanted all along. Claire answers the door with a smile, her hair tied back and an apron dusted with flour wrapped around her waist. Perfect timing, she says, stepping aside to let me in. Dinner's almost ready. The smell of garlic and herbs fills the air, and I follow her into the cozy kitchen, where pots and pans are bubbling away on the stove. The table is already set, candles flickering softly in the dim light. It's simple but thoughtful, and it strikes me how different this feels from anything I've experienced before. There's no pretense, no pressure, just two people enjoying each other's company. This looks amazing, I say, setting the wine on the counter. Do you always go all out like this? She laughs, shaking her head. Only for special occasions. I raise an eyebrow. And this is a special occasion? Her smile softens, and she shrugs. Maybe. The conversation flows easily as we eat, touching on everything from our favorite childhood memories to the places we still dream of visiting. Claire has a way of drawing me out, making me laugh at things I hadn't thought about in years. By the time we're finishing dessert, a decadent chocolate tart she somehow made from scratch, I feel lighter than I have in months. You're full of surprises, I say, leaning back in my chair. I had no idea you were this good in the kitchen. She grins, resting her chin on her hand. There's a lot you don't know about me, Adam. Her words hang in the air, and for a moment, the energy between us shifts. It's subtle but undeniable, a tension that's both thrilling and terrifying. I meet her gaze, wondering if she feels it too. I'd like to change that, I say, my voice quieter now. Her smile fades, replaced by something softer, more vulnerable. Me too. The moment stretches, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Then she stands, clearing the dishes and breaking the spell. Want to help me with the dishes? She asks, her tone light again. Only if you let me dry, I reply with a smirk, grabbing a towel. As we work side by side, rinsing and drying the plates, I realize how easy this feels. There's no awkwardness, no need to fill the silence with meaningless chatter. It's comfortable, natural, and I can't remember the last time I felt this way with someone. When the last dish is put away, Claire leans against the counter, her arms crossed. So, what now? She asks, her eyes searching mine. The question catches me off guard, but I know she's not just asking about tonight. She's asking about us, about where this is going. And for the first time, I feel ready to answer. I don't know, I admit, but I'd like to find out. Her smile returns, small but genuine. Me too. The evening ends with a hug that lingers a little too long, her warmth sinking into me like sunlight after a long winter. As I walk back to my car, I feel a strange mix of emotions, excitement, fear, and something I can only describe as hope. The next day, I wake up with a renewed sense of purpose. I throw myself into work, tackle a new photography project, and even reach out to an old friend I haven't spoken to in years. Each step feels like a piece of the puzzle falling into place, like I'm slowly but surely building the life I want. Claire and I continue to spend time together, and each interaction deepens the connection between us. It's not rushed or forced. It's steady, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. And with each passing day, I find myself letting go of the past a little more, making room for what's ahead. One evening, as we sit on her couch watching a movie, Claire turns to me, her expression thoughtful. "You know," she says, "you've come a long way since I first met you." I chuckle. "You think so?" She nods. "Absolutely. You're stronger now, more open." It's inspiring. Her words warm something in me, and I realize she's right. I have come a long way. The pain and betrayal that once defined me are now just part of the story, not the whole thing. "Thanks," I say, meeting her gaze. That means a lot. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The days that follow feel like stepping into a new chapter of my life, one that's not bound by the pain of the past but shaped by the possibilities of the present. Claire becomes a bigger part of my world, not in an overwhelming way, but in a way that feels natural, like she's been there all along. One crisp Saturday morning, we decide to take a road trip to a nearby national park. It's a spontaneous idea, the kind of thing I never would have done a few months ago, but now it feels right. We load up her car with snacks, hiking gear, and a thermos of coffee, and hit the road as the sun rises. The drive is filled with laughter and music, the kind that makes you forget about time. Claire sings along to the radio, her voice off-key but unapologetic, and I find myself grinning like an idiot. For the first time in what feels like forever, I'm not thinking about what I've lost. I'm focused on what I've found. When we reach the park, the beauty of it takes my breath away. Towering pines stretch toward the sky, their needles glistening with morning dew. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of the forest. Claire grabs my hand as we step onto the trail, her excitement infectious. "Ready for an adventure?" she asks, her eyes sparkling. "Always," I reply, and for once, I mean it. The trail winds through the forest, the sound of birdsong and rustling leaves creating a soothing backdrop. Claire is a bundle of energy, pointing out every interesting plant and animal she sees, while I snap photos of the scenery. It feels good to be out here, away from the noise of the city and the weight of the past. As we reach a clearing with a breathtaking view of the valley below, Claire turns to me, her face glowing in the sunlight. "This is amazing," she says, her voice soft. "Thanks for coming with me." "Thanks for dragging me out here," I reply with a chuckle. "I needed this." We sit on a fallen log, sharing snacks and sipping coffee as we take in the view. The conversation drifts from lighthearted to serious, touching on dreams, fears, and everything in between. Claire talks about her love for the outdoors, her passion for adventure, and her belief that life is meant to be lived fully. I share my journey of rebuilding, my struggles with trust, and my hopes for the future. "You've come a long way," she says, her voice full of admiration. "It's not easy to start over, but you've done it, and you're stronger for it." Her words settle over me like a warm blanket, and I realize she's right. The person I was a few months ago feels like a distant memory, a shadow of who I've become. I'm not defined by Jessica's betrayal anymore. I'm defined by how I've risen from it. "Thanks," I say, meeting her gaze. "That means a lot, coming from you." She smiles, her hand brushing mine. The moment lingers, and I feel a spark, one that's been growing quietly, steadily, since the day we met. It's not just connection anymore. It's something deeper, something I'm finally ready to embrace. As we drive back that evening, the sunset painting the sky in fiery hues, I glance over at Claire. She's humming softly, her hair falling in loose waves around her face, and I feel a sense of contentment I can't put into words. "Claire," I say, my voice cutting through the quiet. "Thank you." She looks at me, puzzled. "For what?" "For everything," I reply. "For reminding me what it feels like to live again." Her smile is soft, but her eyes glisten with emotion. "You don't have to thank me, Adam. You did this. You found your way back." Maybe she's right. Maybe I have. But I also know I wouldn't have gotten here without her. That night, As I sit in my apartment editing photos from the trip, I feel a deep sense of peace. The lighthouse figurine on the windowsill catches my eye, its small beacon glowing faintly in the moonlight. It's no longer just a symbol of hope. It's a reminder of how far I've come. I don't know what the future holds for me and Claire, but for the first time, I'm not afraid to find out. I'm not afraid to trust, to take risks, to embrace the unknown. Because life isn't about avoiding the storms. It's about finding the strength to navigate through them. And as I close my laptop and head to bed, I know one thing for sure. I've weathered the worst of the storm, and the horizon has never looked brighter. Thank you for joining this journey of resilience and growth. Have you faced a moment where you had to rebuild your life? Share your story in the comments. If this inspired you, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more powerful stories.